Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome back to another episode. Again, joined by Sheikh Abu Usamah. How are you feeling today, Sheikh? Feeling good?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, inshallah, we'll have a good one today. Again, we're talking about marriage. We've covered it twice already, but I think today we'll go even more depth into a certain part of it, because there are a lot of elements that go into marriage. So to start off with, I wanted to discuss what I mean by caste and why it exists and stuff. So within the South Asian community, and I'm sure it's the same in many other cultures and communities, there's the idea of caste, which comes from a person's career or what kind of social group they're in. So they have a title, and there's like loads of little groups within a larger community, if that makes sense. So does that have any place in our religion? Is there any concept of caste, or is it just to do with race?
No, we have this issue of caste. I mean, I personally don't like that word because what comes to my mind is the Indian, the Hindu caste system.
Yeah.
But as long as, we're speaking the same language and I'm understanding, then we'll use that for the sake of just clarity. So we do have this thing in our religion where the best person in Islam is the one who has the most taqwa.
Yeah.
Allah Azza wa Jal, He made the people nations and tribes, as He said in the Quran. Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakar wa untha, وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. O mankind, we have created you from a single man and a woman, Adam and his wife. And we made you nations and tribes so that you can know one another. Verily, the best of you in the sight of Allah is the one who has the most taqwa. He is conscious of his duty or her duty to Allah Azza wa Jal. So yes, we have different people who come from different countries, different geographical locations. And those people who are gathered in the same geographical location, even amongst them, there are castes and differences. So Islam has no problem with that. We have the Ahlul Kitab, the Yahud. They're mentioned in the Quran. They existed during the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Rasulullah, he's an Arab. And there are many tribes of Arabs and many types of Arab. And no doubt, the caste of Quraysh is better than all other castes on the face of the earth.
Okay.
The Prophet ﷺ, he informed us that when he said that Allah Ta'ala honored Ismail from the children of Ibrahim. Ibrahim had two children, Ismail, and he had Yaqub, Ishaq. From those two, Allah honored and favored Ismail. And from Ismail's children, he had 11, Allah honored from Ismail Quraysh. And from Quraysh, he honored Bani Hashim. And from Bani Hashim, he honored me. So that goes to show that there are castes and there are differences. Yeah. Ismail had 11 children, and from all of his children, Quraysh is the best one. And from them is what people call the Ashraf or the Sharif and things like that. And Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the leader of those people. And they have virtues in this religion. Like it who like it, hate it who hate it. But their virtues have been explained. Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl are from Quraysh. But Bilal ibn Rabah, who's from Ethiopia, Salman al-Farisi, who's from Persia, Suhaib al-Rumi, who's from Rome, all of them are better than Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl, who are from the Ashraf. So yes, this caste is in Islam. Keeping in mind, caste shouldn't be understood to mean like the Hindu caste system, where I rather say tribes and nations. So we do have that in our religion.
Okay, so when you're talking about it back in the Arab times of, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they were called tribes, wasn't they? Like the Quraysh tribe. Is that what they were known?
And they respected one another and they honored one another. And look, Allah Azza wa Jal, He did something in Arabic that is called aqarrahum alayhi. Allah sent His religion and the Prophet did not come, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, to demolish that.
Yeah.
Had he come to demolish that, he would have had trouble. Because it goes against the fitrah, it goes against nature to demolish that. It is what it is. This is what these people grew up knowing and feeling and understanding from the time of Ibrahim, when his son Ismail was dropped in Mecca. Because there were Arabs in Mecca before Ismail went there. Because if you remember the story of Safa and Marwa, when Ibrahim left his slave girl Hajar and the mother of Ismail, he left them at the Zamzam. Or he left them in that area, Mecca. There was no vegetation, no water. And he started walking away. And she said, did Allah tell you that? She said, you're going to leave us here. You're just going to leave us here. He didn't turn around. You're going to leave us here. You're going to leave us here. He didn't turn around. And then she said, did Allah tell you to leave us here? He turned around and said, Allahumma naam. Allah told me to leave you here. And she said, then Allah is not going to forsake us. And he left and he made dua. And that dua is in the Quran. Mm-hmm. She went back and forth to Safa and Marwa. And she was running because she left her son Ismail in that place. And she would go on Safa, look for the water. When she come down, she couldn't see her son. She would run to Marwa, look for water. And she kept running. And then she saw something with her son. And she went there. What he did, as the Prophet said, he kicked his foot, or an angel hit the water, and Zamzam came out. Hajar came and said, Zamzam, Zamzam, meaning the water's flowing, the water's flowing. So a tribe of Arabs came. They're called Jurham. They were there before Ismail. They're the Arabs of Mecca. They came and they found Hajar and the boy because of the water. They said, can we, settle here? And that's the honor of the Arabs. They could have killed that lady by herself. They said, can we settle here? She said, yes, you can settle here under the condition the water belongs to me and my son. And then he married a woman from Jurham. Okay. And then that's how he got Arab in his blood, and then they continued to grow and so forth and so on.
Well, so you mentioned how there was tribes back then, but what situation would happen if someone from one tribe wanted to marry a person from a different tribe? Was that mentioned at all? And
that would happen, but not as common as marrying people from your own tribe. Mm-hmm. That was before Prophet Muhammad came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But even after he came, it's natural. You can't expect people to become colorless. You can't expect people to become, tribes don't mean anything, language don't mean anything. You can't expect that. There's a natural thing in Arabic. They say, at-tuyur ala ashkariha taqa. Birds of a feather flock together. Yeah. So do you ever see the ducks flying and the pigeon, the two up in the air with the ducks? You never see that. An eagle flying, and along with that eagle is a hawk or a dove? No. There has to be some commonality. Yeah. And that's just something that's natural.
Okay, but yeah, so they'll obviously remember their identity, they remember their roots or their heritage. But if they...
And another thing before I forget, don't miss that point. Don't forget that point. Mm-hmm. Islam came to protect 5 things. And one of the things that Islam came to protect was the lineage of the people, the nasab, who you come from. So a man and a woman, we name ourselves a particular way and so forth and so on. And you don't make zina, and then you get a baby out of wedlock and he's from outside of your tribe in terms of the lineage and the blood. So there's a lot of legislation that clearly shows that Islam pays attention to this. Islam didn't come and say, throw this thing out of the window. I'm African American. So as an African American, I travel to Ukraine. And there is a Muslim girl in Ukraine that I want to marry. And when I go to marry that girl, her parents say no. They don't like my color. They don't like my language. They don't like how I look. You can't blame them for that. You can't blame them for that. They should be better than that, and they should do what the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that a woman is married for 4 reasons. She's married for her beauty, for her lineage. She's married for her lineage. And she's married as well for her wealth, and she's married for her deen. He said, marry the one with the religion and you'll be successful. But a person says, I don't like his lineage. I don't like the beauty or lack thereof. And you can reject people based upon that. And another thing about marriage is what is called al-kafa'u. And it's important. It's called is compatibility. Yeah. Compatibility. You come from Mirpur. Yeah. And you grew up here in the UK. There's another girl who may be your relative back in Mirpur. But her growing up in Mirpur is going to create in her an existence and an understanding that although you guys share a lot of commonality, because you grew up here, you and her can be totally opposites, 180 degrees.
Yeah.
So it may not be wise for you to be forced to marry that girl, or vice versa. So people should look for those people who are compatible to them and tick as many boxes as possible. A white man, a white Muslim brother, a non-Muslim comes to marry my daughter. I say no, because there's no compatibility there, and the most important issue. Another person comes to marry. A guy from Russia wants to marry my daughter. I'm going to say no until I get to meet him. I'm not going to jump up and down about a Russian person coming to marry my daughter.
Yeah.
I have to find out, what's his deen like? What is his thinking? And also, what is his job? What can he do? Can he speak English? Can he get along with my wife? Does he understand my daughter's background? All of those things have to be considered. And it's not like what many people think. You just throw this stuff out of the window and it doesn't mean anything. No, we have to be in the middle. It means something, and we have to deal with it the right way. So don't be far to the right or far to the left. Throw it out of the window, and the young person, no, I don't understand. It's haram. You should marry me. No. And then the other extreme is the person says, Wallahi, I won't marry my daughter to anybody other than a person from my caste. No, that's extreme. You're being too, stern.
Okay, so I was going to mention how, say there was a young couple. They got to know each other maybe through the wrong circumstances, but they're trying to do something right now. And this person is compatible with the person, they believe it's the person they want to marry, but the parent still rejects it. What would happen in that situation? What do you think?
Well, it's the responsibility of the father, especially, and the mother. It's their responsibility to try to help their children to get married and to make it as easy as possible. Do your job, but don't make it unnecessarily difficult. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there's a man, his name was Julaybib. He was very dark. He had holes in his nose, and he had like a acne issue, holes in his cheek. And according to their standards, he wasn't a handsome guy. So Prophet Muhammad came to the father of a beautiful young Arab lady and said, I want to marry your daughter. He thought the Prophet, he said, Marhaban, no, yes, Rasulullah. He said, not for me. I want to marry your daughter to Julaybib, my companion. The man said, Ya Rasulullah, anyone but Julaybib. My relatives gonna laugh at me. The people gonna put pressure on me. It's gonna be a problem. Ho, ho, ho. Rasulullah said, yes, Julaybib. The man didn't want to say no to the Nabi. He said, Ya Rasulullah, let me talk to my wife. Which goes to show the father doesn't have to be a dictator. He said, let me talk to my wife. She has something to say about this. Give me some time. Hey, my wife, he went. Rasulullah wants to marry our daughter. The wife said, Marhaban, welcome Rasulullah. Said that to the husband. He said, not for Rasulullah, but for Julaybib. The mother said, anybody but Julaybib. The girl was hearing this from her room, from another part of the house. She came out and she said, mother, father, Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran, Istajibu lillahi wa rasul idha da'akum lima yuhyikum. Answer the call of Allah and His Messenger when they invite you to that which will give you life. I want to marry him because the Nabi said that. Rasulullah would never introduce a man who wasn't a good man for me. He would never do that. And so she got married. So in that incident is a lot of benefit, and it talks to what we're saying. Julaybib wasn't attractive according to the standards of the people, but yet the girl has something to say, what she wanted to do. So they paid attention to that.
Yeah.
So it's an issue where it's the responsibility of the father especially and the mother not to make things difficult. Because if they make things difficult, they'll be responsible for doing what? Causing the two people to go out and do what's haram. So the clear hadith said, إِذَا جَاءَكُم مَّن تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقُهُ فَزَوِّجُوهُ. If someone comes to you to get married to your daughter, then marry him if you're pleased with his khuluq, his akhlaq, his behavior, and his deen. As for his color and things like that, those things are important. But the most important thing, brother, is the deen and the character. Ali ibn Abi Talib said, marry your daughters to the men of taqwa, to the people of taqwa, because if he loves her, he'll honor her. And if he doesn't love her, it's not working. He won't oppress her. So how many people we know, they come from the same village, they're cousins and everything, they get married, and the man is a criminal. He doesn't like the girl, and he oppresses her. It didn't guarantee and secure that marriage is going to go well. Look at the people you know from your culture. How many of them got divorced? Mm-hmm. How many of them are not happy? They're in toxic relationships. Yeah. So what we have to do, especially brothers like you, Akhi, the younger generation, you guys have to have a bigger open mind. As for our parents, some of them couldn't read, couldn't write. Grandfathers, grandmothers couldn't read, couldn't write. So their horizons are, restricted. So what they did back then, what was normal for them back then, we understand the context, but we want to move away from that. And the most important thing is, what's going to be in the best interest of my daughter? Now, people talking, that has some weight. That has some weight. Prophet Muhammad said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is not okay for a Muslim to put himself down and to debase himself. They said, how does one do that, Ya Rasulullah? He said, by putting himself in a situation that he can't handle. That means a lot of things. You're walking down the street, 7, 8 skinheads are coming down your side of the street, and you have your wife. And you say, oh, al-Islam. No, man, you can't. You got to cross the street. It can mean that. But it also can mean you're going to get your daughter married to somebody who there's going to be fitna. Fitna that you can't handle from your brothers, your sisters, your mother, your father, the community. So you should consider that. But don't consider it as much as you consider this potential mate for my daughter, my sister, whoever. This guy is a ticket to Jannah. I believe he's going to help her. So you say, hey, I'm willing to deal with this stuff that's going to come because what I'm doing for my daughter, Allah is going to help me. So it's just an issue. We have to look at all of the angles.
Weigh him up, basically, is what you say.
Weigh him up, brother. And this is why it's important to know our Deen, to know the Deen and to be experienced and have common sense as well. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to weigh the pros and the cons.
Yeah. Okay, so, we're on about how if a parent gets approached by a potential mate for their daughter or whatnot, shouldn't they at least give him the opportunity to hear him out and see who he is as a person rather than instantly being like, nope, just because of a different tribe, as we say?
I believe it depends on what's going on. Like I said, being in the middle. Look what happened, Akhi. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam only married women. He had 11 wives. He only married women who had high status. He never marry a slave girl. He never married anyone who her tribe was looked down upon. And even one wife, our mother, Sophia bintu Huyay, she's a Jewish lady. And she was from the best of the Jews in terms of a lineage. How do we know that? Aisha was jealous of her one time. And she said something negative about her, Sophia. He said, Ya Rasulullah, hasbuka Sophia. It's enough that Sophia like this, which means she's a short lady. Okay. So she was like saying midget, like shorty. And it hurt her. She went and told Rasulullah what happened. Rasulullah said, Ya Aisha, taqillah, fear Allah, what are you doing? He said to Sophia, the wife, and this is the point, don't listen to what she's saying. You are the daughter of a Nabi, and you are the niece of a Nabi, and you're married to a Nabi. You're the daughter of Harun. He's your father in lineage. And his brother Musa, another Nabi, is your uncle. And your husband, me, I'm a Nabi. So it showed even the Jewish lady had high lineage. So we have to take that in consideration. Rasulullah never married a woman whose lineage was suspect or her background. Because it would be a cause for people to criticize him in his dawah. Yeah. He married the best of the women in terms of lineage. So if someone came, it may be that you have the right to say, I don't want to even entertain this. Why? Because what we know about the family is so bad, I'm not going to waste my time. But we shouldn't be those type of people who we judge a book by its cover. That's not wise. Take your time and investigate. It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, I was just going back to that example you gave of a Russian man? You said you would get to know what he does for a living, his characteristics, is he practicing, stuff like that. You said you would look at them things rather than just shut it off at the gate, which is why I just wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying it would depend. So family comes to tell me that they have a son who wants to marry my daughter, and the son is obese. May Allah help us with obesity. I'm not putting anyone with obesity down. And that person has, we do pounds. I don't know kilos and stones, but let's say he's 450 pounds and he's really struggling with his weight, but he wants to get married. I don't have to consider that. I don't have to consider it. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, anything like that. And he may be a religious guy, but he may have health issues in terms of the aesthetics and the optics of the whole thing. My daughter won't be interested. So no one could come and tell me, you must listen. I don't have to listen. Another one comes and he has some special need issues going on. I don't have to listen. But let's say that a different bird of a different color comes. But for the most part, everything looks okay, normal, as they say. Any businessman, anyone who's worth his weight in salt as it comes to making money, he has to listen. What's the proposition? What's on the table? So it may be that you don't have to listen, depending on the extremes of what's going on. But generally speaking, it's better to sit down and listen. Yeah.
Yeah. So going away from like the example of you then, so we just talk about a situation where two people have got to know each other and they've decided that this is the person they want to marry. So rather than you're choosing on behalf of your daughter, in a sense, is your daughter's saying to you, I want to marry this person. So say there's a parent who just straight denies it. What should the younger people do there then? How should they go about that?
Yeah, this is really important, brother. And it's a tough situation because a lot of the responsibility falls on the parents. But we have to know as children, we have to know that you should obey your parents in everything that they tell you to do, and you have the ability to do it, except when they tell you to disobey Allah. So if your parents, like Umar radiallahu anhu, told his son Abdullah, divorce that girl. And Abdullah ibn Umar didn't want to divorce her. He loved that woman. And then he went to the Nabi and said, Ya Rasulullah, my father is demanding. Rasulullah said, obey your father. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to use that hadith or we should make that for the regular parents now. Umar was Umar. Prophet Muhammad said, if there was a Nabi after me, it would have been Umar. Yeah. So if he tells his son or daughter to get divorced or whatever, he's speaking from an angle of taqwa knowledge. That's what the people now, he just say divorce her, don't marry her. And he's an evil person, doesn't pray, doesn't, racist, all that. So I say that to say that the mother and the father, they're the general. And the children, they're not the captain, they're not the lieutenant, they're not the sergeant, they're grunts, they're privates.
Okay.
They're privates. So we have to always respect them. We may not agree or want what they want us to do, but the parents say no. One of the parents say, no way, Jose, over my dead body, forget about it. Then it's the responsibility of the child to try to convince them. Go to a member of the community that you trust. Go to a relative that you trust. Go to someone that your parents respect. And you keep trying this way, trying that way to try to get them on board. But let's say that nothing works. Then I say, as the uncle of people like that, do what the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Man taraka shay'an lillah awadahu ma huwa khayru minhu. Anyone who leaves something for Allah's sake, Allah will replace it with that which is better. I want to marry this girl. This girl, not the one on this coffee cup right here, the Starbucks. But I want to marry this girl. I swear I love her. She's the greatest thing since sliced bread as far as I'm concerned. I want to get with this because we got to know each other. And wallahi, I really believe. But my mother and my father are not down with the program. And that's going to cause my mother be upset with me, my father be upset with me. I can't just go and marry her like that. What I should do is try to get them on board. They're not budging. And they're wrong because they find out the girl is good. I love her. She loves me. It's going to work. But they're not cooperating. I say, leave that for the sake of Allah. That's not the only fish in the ocean. But what we think when we're young is, there are no more fish in the ocean. Hey, man, there are 7 oceans, brother. 7 oceans. 7. The number of women on the earth compared to men. All of that. hey, leave that. Because as they say, blood is thicker than water. What's going to happen? And I've seen this with different community members. He goes off and they elope. Her mother didn't want it. Her father didn't want it. And they elope. And you can get married without their permission. But that's another story you have to come to. Mm-hmm. You can get married, but there's a way to do it. So he marries the girl. The mother and father cut him off. The girl's mother and father cut off. What is she going to do when she has a baby? And she needs her mother. She needs her mother's help. Her sister's help. What is she going to do when it's a time of Eid? What is she going to do when there's a walima, a marriage here, this here? She can't go. She's going to be lonely. And then you add on to that dynamic, what happens if the marriage starts to break down? Because how many people, when they first hooked up, they was like, they was like that.
Yeah.
And then after a month, 2 months, after 1 year, they start sitting there and the voices in their head and say, what the hell was I thinking about? So what happens when that happens? If that were to happen? And there are a lot of sisters in that situation. They eloped, and then now the guy, he's not as interested in her like he was when he was pursuing her. And he used to give her those corny lines that she believed in. Oh, if you were a bogey in my nose, you would be the first one that I would pick. To me, that's disrespect. Don't compare me to a booger, to a bogey. Yeah. But she's so in love that she's, he's a romantic too.
I never heard of that one.
Yeah, man. Those corny lyrics that the guy gives the girl. Yeah. That normally a girl with izzah would say, what? Don't compare me to a booger, man. What are you talking about? That's the best line you could come up with. But when she's in love, everything that she sees in him, smells in him, hears from him, is just music to her. He's literally music, violins. That's literal. But then when you get together and you start living the reality, you're married, right? Mm-hmm. I'm married. Alhamdulillah. My wives are queens. I love them. Good people. Alhamdulillah. But there are challenges. There are challenges, brother. That's how it goes. Mm-hmm. So I would always say concerning this, one of the parents say no, especially in certain communities, and I'll call them out. Somalis, they have a lot of tribalism, and that's not to put them down. This generation, as we move forward, they become easy and better. Asians, they have a lot of tribalism. This caste thing is strong. So if you have parents that they're like that, then I say, hey, listen, don't get married until you get your parents on board. And if they're playing hardcore, they're being rough and tough, don't elope. Don't get married. Let it go. Let it go. But I also say, the parent, come on, you're going to be responsible for creating problems and drama. You're going to open up the door for the girl to run off with the boy. That's what you're doing. Give the boy a chance. Mm-hmm. And then shoot it down after you got him a chance. You gave him a chance. Well, I didn't have liked the fact that you two got to know each other behind my back. Anas ibn Malik said, Nahana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam an natakallam ma'a nisa illa bi idhin awliyaihim. Allah has prohibited, Rasulullah told us, don't talk to women about marriage without the knowledge and the permission of their wali, their guardians. So I sat with the brother and I heard his story. Where does he work? Where does he come from? And all of that. And then I say, nah, I'm not going to let you marry my daughter because you went behind my back and I feel like you dissed me royally. My daughter is a princess and I love her. And I don't like that you did that. And then other things start to come out as well. Other things about his history, his past, or he's not working, this and that. But I don't believe in just shooting people down just like that without giving them the opportunity, without sitting to see what's going on. Who does that? Just close the door and say no. That's a form of ignorance.
I feel like if parents did do what you're saying and then they actually had a good reason for it, they could explain it to the daughter. Maybe she could understand their reasoning too. But yeah, so you did mention how there is some circumstances where it's okay. I don't know if it's okay. I'm trying to find out from you now, actually. But like where a girl does get married without her parents. Can you explain some of those situations?
Yeah, I'll explain it very briefly, but it's a deep and heavy situation. Yeah. That is, during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Arabs used to force their daughters to get married. And it was from the things they did in Jahiliyyah, the time when they didn't have any knowledge. So many incidents happened. A girl came and said, Ya Rasulullah, my father is telling me I have to get married. And I'm not going to get married until I know what the right is that the husband has over me. So what's the rights that the husband has over me? Intelligent question. The Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the rights that the husband have over his daughter is, if he were to develop a sore in his nose, and then it festered and had blood and pus in it, and it became an abscess, and she were to clean it out with her mouth, sucking it, licking it out, and then she swallowed that, she would not have given him his rights. Prophet Muhammad wasn't telling a woman you have to do that. Mm-hmm. He was painting a picture to let her know he has a lot of rights over you. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm going to come back to this hadith so no one misunderstands. He wasn't telling the woman, I go home today, I'm tired. Hey, lady, come here. I got a sore. Come clean it. No. Prophet Muhammad said clean it. No. He's trying to give her a visual of how these rights are so she can visualize it. Mm-hmm. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the lady heard that and she said, Wallahi, swore by Allah. She said, I'm not getting married. And he left it. If that was haram for her to say, he wouldn't have left it. So it's okay. She don't want to get married. Another situation. A lady came to complain. Ya Rasulullah, my father has married a man, a lady from a man, and now he wants me to marry that man, and he's forcing me to marry my cousin. The Prophet came out and told the men, La tujbiru ama Allah ala nikah. Do not force these girls to get married. Don't force them to get married. Don't force them. And then the girl say, Ya Rasulullah, I'll listen to my father. I just wanted the women to know they have something to say. They have a say in the situation. So now, what happens if, as you said, they're trying to get married and the wali, the father, the mother, they're not cooperating? Then what happens, the hadith said, that a woman who's a virgin, you have to get her permission. You can't force her. Al-bikr tusta'dhan. He said, Al-thayyib ahaqqu bi nafsiha min waliyiha wal-bikr tusta'dhan. Wa sukutuha idhnuha. A woman who's a divorcee, a woman who is a widow, a woman who is not a virgin, even if she's never been married, she's a thayyib. He said that this woman has more rights over herself to make a decision about who she wants to marry. But she has a wali. He said she has more rights than her wali has over her. He said in the virgin girl, her permission should be sought. And then the hadith he said, and the girl that doesn't and if they fight, when ishtajaru, if the wali and the girl are yes, no, then the sultan becomes the wali of the girl. So effectively, in the consent scenario you gave, the parents are not letting the girl get married, but she's insisting. She has the right to insist. After trying, we try to get him on board. The father said, over my dead body, never, no way. But the girl says, I'm marrying this guy. He's my prince in shining armor. We're going to be riding in city center on a white pony and stuff like that. And everybody's going to be throwing flowers and every day. Oh, this is not real. Mm-hmm. But if she insists, then she goes to the masjid in the Muslim world, to the judge, someone with authority. He doesn't just marry her. He says to the dad, hey, man, you better wake up and smell the coffee, man. You can't, what's the problem? And then if she insists, the guardianship is taken from the father after attempts were made. Not once, twice, three, but enough where it becomes clear he's oppressive. She has a right to get married. And she has more rights because she's the one making that decision. Now, if she's willing to get married and all of that scenario that we described, her family cuts her off, and I don't advise this. If she's willing to bite the bullet and to eat, to do that, if she's willing, then she goes and the imam marries her. After trying, she has that right. So no one can force her to marry in Islam, and no one can prevent her from getting married in Islam. No one. No one. But as her uncle, as an elder, I'm going to advise every sister who's listening to me. Don't do it. I used to have this issue, this challenge all the time with the Somali community. Because the younger Somali community, they're different from their tribalistic parents. Some of them don't care what tribe. They don't even know what tribe they come from today. They're not worrying about this stuff. Like Mirpuris and Pakistanis. This is a new generation, 2022. People not thinking about that. Yeah. What side of the dam did your parents live on? Yeah. What dam you talking about? The only dam I know is the word damn.
We don't know this stuff yet. Yeah.
So we're not holding on to that, but it's the parents who still dragging their feet in the molasses and moving and backwards like that. So I always tell those people, listen, do not ever get married in this circumstance. Let that boy go or let that girl go. Let him go. Let him go, because blood is thicker than water.
Yeah. Okay, so I feel like we've got a good ground there, and with caste and stuff. But another side of it for looking to get married is when people talk about meher and stuff. So what exactly do you mean by meher? It's the money that the girl it's her right, basically, before they get married, a certain amount that she gets to choose.
Before answering that question, I just want to say that we may have in the audience people who are really in this situation.
Yeah.
And they are hearing what they don't like. They say, man, I didn't think that guy was like that. That guy sounds like he's on our parents' side.
Yeah.
He's a throwback. He's old school. I'm not old school like that. I got one foot in the old school, another foot in the new school. I'm all down for the next generation.
Yeah.
A lot can be said about this issue. So don't think in these few minutes that we're talking right now that I'm explaining the whole situation. I think these kind of issues should be dealt with in detail so that all of the bases can be covered. But it's a serious issue. Mm-hmm. As it relates to the issue of the dowry, Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ. Marry those women who are compatible to you, the ones you like, because that'll make it so that you'll stay together. And he said in the ayah, وَآتُوا النِّسَاءِ صَدَقَاتِهِنَّ النِّحْلَةِ. When you marry these women, give them their dowries. Give them their dowries. So the dowry is the haqq of the wife. And look at the ignorance and the oppression of the culture. When she gets married, the girl never saw the dowry. Never saw it. It goes straight to the mother, the father, and all that kind of stuff. Now, if she agrees for that, no problem. Here, you guys spent a lot of money on the dress and this and that. Keep the dowry. But that's her haqq. In many cultures, she doesn't see it, smell it, but it goes to her because Allah says she has the right for the dowry. And the dowry is an issue that has a lot of fiqh to it. It can be £1 billion and it could be a cup of coffee.
It's her choice, essentially.
It's their choice collectively, everybody who's involved. That's why it's part of the fiqh. It's a lot concerning the dowry. Mm-hmm. From the fiqh of the dowry, Allah mentioned about divorce. He said, when أردتم استبدال زوج مكان زوج وآتيتم إحداهن قنطارا فلا تأخذوا منه شيئا. If one of you men, you want to divorce your wife, you're going to divorce her. When you divorce her, don't take any of her dowry back, even if you gave her a qintar. Qintar is a large treasure. So that ayah goes to show that the dowry can be a Boeing 747, one of those jet planes. It could be whatever that they agreed to amongst themselves. But the Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, khairu sadaq aysaruhu. The best dowry is the one that's easy. The best one is the one that's easy. In the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and places like this, young people your age find it difficult to get married because the dowry is £100,000.
Serious money.
£100,000 I'm gonna give to a girl who can't even cook. She's not a looker. She's not religious. She doesn't respect me. But that's the culture. So young people your age, they don't get married a lot unless they have a lot of money. And we make things difficult for people. But from the fiqh of it is, the dowry is haqq. From the fiqh of it is, it can be a large amount of money. from the fiqh of it, the best dowry is the one that's easy for the boy. Because the girl is not a piece of meat being sold. What is the dowry? The dowry is the token of appreciation from the boy saying, hey, look, sister, queen, look, I'm giving you this 5,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds, 1,000 pounds, this gold as your dowry, as a token of my appreciation for you saying, yes, you'll marry me. So it's a gift to say yes. Someone came to me and said, hey, Abu Usamah, your daughter Sudesa, we'll marry you. We want to marry her. And we're going to fill this whole studio up with brand new 50-pound notes from floor to top, the whole room. That's going to be a lot of money. I'm going to say, nah, man, miss me with that. Bounce and get out of my vision. My daughter is priceless. My daughter is priceless. Doesn't give you selling. I'm not selling my daughter. You can't fill this whole masjid upstairs and all that stuff and give me that money. What are you talking about? So the dowry has a lot of fiqh. Part of the, it's a lot to talk about, so I won't open any doors that you don't bring to the table. But we shouldn't make it difficult by, giving a lot of weight on the shoulder of the boy. But there's another problem, another extreme, and I mention this because as reverts, we come into the religion and we don't have a lot of cultural baggage with us. So he wants to marry the revert girl. And so he says, okay, I'm gonna give you a Pepsi soda. That's the dowry. Man, you ain't giving my sister and my daughter a Pepsi soda. What are you talking about? It's Pepsi soda? Well, don't you know that hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he told the man who wanted to marry the woman, he said, what do you have to give as a dowry? He said, I have nothing, Ya Rasulullah. That's how poor he was. I have nothing. He said, well, go and look for even an iron ring. Even an iron ring. The man got up and he went, spent the day, came back. I can't even find that, Ya Rasulullah. Rasulullah said, what do you know of the Quran? He said, I memorized surah, this, that. He said, okay, I'm going to marry you to this woman. And the dowry is you teach her what you know of the Quran. Wow. There was another companion, Sulaim. She's a tremendous companion. A rich man, Abu Talha from Medina, from the Ansar, came, said, Sulaim, I want to marry you. She said, Abu Talha, you're a man who any intelligent woman would never reject your desire to marry her. But you are a kafir and I'm a Muslimah and it's haram. But I tell you what, if you say La ilaha illallah and become a Muslim, that'll be your dowry. Didn't cost him money. And he wanted to marry her. So he married her. So she used her position in the religion. When they got married, he saw her akhlaq. He saw the community. He saw the Nabi. And his Islam got strong. So the point is, he got married saying La ilaha illallah. The other man got married. He's going to teach the Quran to his wife. So, yes, you can marry with a great amount of money. And it can be the best one is what the boy can handle. And it's everything in between that. So I just want to repeat again. As a revert, I tell these sisters, don't be one of those people who the brother comes and says, yeah, I'm going to give you a Pepsi. Because a Pepsi is, it's easy and no. If she wants to accept it, alhamdulillah, but I say no. At least say something like, nah, I got my own house. You're going to come live in my house or whatever. I'm going to come live in your house. You know what I want for a dowry? I want you to give me a refrigerator, new freezer, new microwave, like things like that the guy can do. Be intelligent. Mm-hmm. So it can be whatever. That's the point.
It is a bit tricky though with dowry though, because you have a lot of situations where people give such big figures that they don't get paid outright. I'm sure it's supposed to be paid then and there, isn't it? Or is that, am I wrong?
That's another issue. That the brother will agree to a dowry.
Yeah.
And the culture has all of this madness going on. We gave a khutbah in our masjid about the wali and the importance of the wali. And we would advise that people go back and check that out. It's what people are doing wrong. But as it relates to this dowry, the brother agreed, okay, I agree to give her 50,000 pounds. He doesn't even have that money. And if we get a divorce, 75,000 if we get divorced. Well, the Prophet said, there are many conditions you have to take care of. The Quran says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil uqud. Oh, you believe any contract or agreement, anyone you went into, any agreement, take care of it. The hadith said, Al-Muslimun ala shurutihim. The Muslims take care of their promises and their agreements. The munafiq promises and he breaks his promise. But this hadith said, the one agreement, the one promise that you got to keep to is the most important one out of all of the agreements. You have an agreement for your rent. You have an agreement for your car. You have an agreement where you have to pay things or do things. A contract. Many things. He said the most important contracts that you have to take care of are the contracts that were made that make the private parts halal. Meaning the contracts connected to marriage. So before the marriage, if the guy agreed, okay, I will never get married to a second wife, he has to live up to that. Okay, I agree that you won't have to come and live with my mother. He has to live up to that. Okay, I agree, I won't leave the city with your mother and your father. He has to live up to that. He has to live up to that. So if he made a contract and he said, I agreed, I'm gonna give you 50 grand, 5 up front, and then the rest after that. He has to live up to that, even if they get divorced. So the issues are serious issues. Not fun, it's not games.
Yeah, but he also, he says, like, I'll give you 45 later. He has to consciously start doing that, doesn't he? He doesn't say, we'll do it later, we'll do it later.
Yeah, he has to. And I think a lot of people, a lot of brothers and coaches, we just say, yeah, but we're not going to do that. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. And you're going to be held accountable. Yawm al-Qiyamah, that Allah's going to be in your neck. And a lot of times we get into marriage and we even forget. It's a non-issue.
No.
That's why you got to marry the people who have the Deen. You got to marry, he has akhlaq and Deen. If someone comes to you, they want to get married, then marry him if you're impressed with his Deen and his character. Because if he loves the girl, he's going to take care of her and give her the dowry, even if it's tough. But if he doesn't have any Deen, he doesn't feel Allah, he'll be like, man, I ain't giving you nothing. I'm not giving you anything. Take a hike. Get out of here.
That's how it would happen, because he has no principles like that.
Yeah, no principle. What's going to stop him? Yeah, whereas the other guy, he has taqwa. And he'll say right up front, nah, I don't agree with that. I'm not, that's a bit over. The Muslim shouldn't lower himself. And that's a bit too high for me. There's too much. You guys have to come down. And if they say no, he says, I'm not putting myself in that situation, because he has Deen. And his Deen is telling them, brother, don't put yourself in that situation. Then the other guy, he has Deen, and he said, man, that's a lot, but I'm really feeling this girl and I want to marry her. So he agrees with the intention of paying, because his Deen tells him, as the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, anyone who gets married, there are 3 people Allah will take care of them. 3 people, as long as they're sincere. Allah will take care. And one of them is the one who gets married with the intention of just protecting his private part and practice of religion. Allah will take care of that person. So his Deen, he believes in that hadith. So he works with. But the one who doesn't have a Deen, brother, not only is he not going to give the dowry, and he knows he's not going to get that, he's going to say to the girl, look, I got a really good important investment opportunity. So, all of that gold that you had from other people, the gifts, let me get that. I'm going to bring you the money back. We're just going to, invest. He went and gambled that money away. This has no Deen.
Yeah. It's a very tricky situation with the meher and stuff, especially with the caste and the meher. But I feel like we should move on, and I want to just speak about, both of them topics have to do with that. It's quite difficult to get married nowadays for younger people. Not everybody, but for some circumstances it is a bit difficult for younger people to get married. But I wanted to talk about why it's important to get married, in the sense that we shouldn't. Well, I heard about it in a podcast I was watching, and they was talking about how younger men shouldn't exactly trust ourselves to go about from about, I think it was 17 to 32, believing that we can control our nafs, when in reality we shouldn't trust ourselves in that sense, and we should just get married earlier on, because nobody can withstand it. Does that sound about right, what I'm saying? That
yeah, that's true. The ayah of the Quran tells people, لا تزكوا أنفسكم هو أعلم بمن اتقى. Don't praise yourselves. Allah knows best who is religious and not religious. You can't walk around talking about, I can handle a fitna. What are you talking about? Prophet Muhammad said, I have not left a fitna more harmful and difficult for my ummah other than women.
I didn't know.
Yeah, that's authentic hadith. Ma taraktu ala ummati fitnatan ashaddu min an-nisa. I never left a fitna more harmful on the community, men, than the women. Prophet Muhammad said, awwal fitnati bani Israel kana fi nisa. The first fitna that came to Bani Israel was with the women. So now, I look at a brother like you. I have no sugar in my tank. You know what I mean, right? I ain't got no sugar in my tank, right?
I don't know.
I'm not gay.
Okay, I've never heard
I
that
ain't got
one.
no sugar in my tank. But I want to prefix what I'm about to say.
okay, yeah.
You're a handsome brother.
Okay, I appreciate it, Sheikh.
You know, look at your eyes. You don't pluck your eyes. They're just naturally like that.
Yeah.
You got that GQ thing, slim. I
it.
remember when I first met you, was buff diesel more. You must have been, but you was buff. You was lifting, running, and all that stuff.
I'm trying to bolt now, Sheikh.
Yeah. So you are a fitna for women, and they're a fitna for you. It's not just the men and the boys. The Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, an-nisa shaqa'iqur rijal. The women are twins to the men. Meaning, everything that happens to men happens to them. The man has desires. Wallahi, the young girls have desires. So the father has to be in the ear of the boy, in the life of the boy. Then the Prophet tells the people, Ya ma'shar al-shabab min istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj. Hey, you young men, you shabab, whoever has the ability to get married, you have the money and you physically get married, he said, hurry up and get married. And whoever doesn't have the ability, doesn't even have the money, then fast. Because fasting will cause your eyes to lower. It'll help you. It'll break that desire you have. Same thing for the girl. As a young man, and I just got to be straight up, man. As a young man, you start waking up in the morning. We call in America filling your Cheerios.
I've never heard that one.
Yeah, the cereal Cheerios,
yeah.
because it's the breakfast of champions.
Okay.
Testosterone. So you say, now he's filling his Cheerios, meaning at that time he's going through a lot. He has that desire, shahwa. And it's natural. Allah put that in human beings to procreate. You see? One young man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was sincere. The people were sitting there from the companions in the masjid. He said, Ya Rasulullah, give me permission to make zina.
I remember you mentioned
He said that in front of the people. His relatives, the people, what's wrong with you? You lost your mind? You better go and find your mind. You lost your mind? Rasulullah said, leave it. He said, you want that to happen to your mother? No. A'udhu billah. You want that to happen to your auntie, your sister? A'udhu billah. He said, well, the people don't want that to happen to their mother, their auntie, their sister. And he took the boy and he made dua for him. And Allah took that away. You went through that. He went through that. I went through that. And all girls, for the most part, go through that. So their mothers and fathers have to be on top of that. So it's just not the boy. It's just not the boy. But I think for the boy, especially, our girls are a bit more reserved. They in the house a little bit more. Can't even say that. They're out just as much. So what happens is, if we're not really engaging these challenges, we're going to have a problem. You'll have the girl, the boy, the girl, who they're overwhelmed and overtaken, and they got trapped in the claws of masturbation. So he masturbates all the time. She masturbates all the time. Or they get caught in the clutches and in the claws of pornography. So they're always watching porn, and that's creating other problems.
Yeah.
So it's natural to sit down with your boy and to talk about this stuff. And that's why when our class and we deal with these boys, I mean, we just talk about it straight up, like I'm talking about it now. I think some of the people from our community who are Muslims and Asian background, they can't watch what we're saying with their mothers and fathers. We start saying this stuff, masturbating. So I'm out of here. I can't listen to this with my mother.
It's a taboo subject.
It's a taboo.
Yeah.
But it's real.
It's real.
So my son, our sons, they start getting pubic hairs. The father, he notices, his wife tells him, oh, the boy got pubic hairs. Father goes out and gets him a razor and just gives him the razor and puts it on a dress and leave. No, man, you got to take that razor and say, come here, boy. And you got to start schooling them about the birds and the bees. But that's what it was back in the day. The birds and the bees were innocent. Man, it's about the hawks and the vultures today. It's about the wasp. You know the wasp is? Yeah. It's about the wasp and the hawks today, the eagles. Because TikTok, those kids are watching TikTok. So they want to be with the boys and diggy. That's what these people are watching. People dancing and with all of this voluptuous stuff and it's about the wasp and the eagles now, the hawk. So the father got to sit down and talk to his son. And also for me, I talk to my daughters straight up. I tell my daughters all the time, you can talk to me about anything. If you want to get married, I don't care who it is. If you meet someone, you come and talk to me. Don't go behind my back and do something because you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a problem. But I have to make it so that they feel that way.
Yeah. Comfort.
Yeah. Especially now. We can't be on that stuff that we were upon with our mothers and fathers back in Mirpur, Lahore, Rawalpindi. We can't take this new Peshawar. It's a new day. These kids are exposed to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like, kids are growing up a lot quicker now because of that too, social media. Everybody's exposed to a lot more from a younger age. But yeah, Sheikh, just to wrap it up then, what should we say, just to sum it up, what's the best way for younger people to go about trying to get married? What's the halal way? What should they get the parents involved as soon as possible, I'm guessing?
I think it's important to keep your parents on board, depending on the relationship with the parents. Sometimes, it's very cultural or it's very awkward. Can't talk to them straight up, but still always keep them inside of the loop. And always make sure they are people who you're dealing with, who you trust, who are mature, and they know how to handle things. Just do it the religious way. Don't do it the other way. Don't do it. My daughter wants to get married. And I'm all for that. She could tell the type of person how I talk to them, what I talk to them about. As they were growing up, I always ask my daughters and my sons, anybody did touch you inappropriately? Anybody bully you in school? Did the teacher say something that you didn't like? I'm saying that all the time. I used to say to them, anybody touch you? And I would name the part of the body like using, little kids' language. Okay. So as they grow up, it's easy. So when my daughters had their menses, they would come to me and tell me. They would tell me. I have no problem with telling me. My daughters. My son, he has a nocturnal dream, a wet dream. He come and tell me. So we have to have that relationship. So as it relates to our daughters especially, hey, I don't mind you falling in love. You know what I'm talking. That's a nice experience for the girl. Falling in love is beautiful, brother. Allah said in the Quran, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. From the ayat of Allah is He gave you wives from yourselves. They're like you. You have desires, they have desires. You're a human being, they're a human being. They're not monkeys. You're a human being and they're jinns. You're a human being, they're angels. They don't work. Compatibility. From His ayat, He made you wives, mates out of yourselves. And He put between you rahmah and love. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. To have sakina. So the girl is going through that. It's okay, sister. I want you, my daughter. Look, I want you to enjoy that. But while you're on that emotional tip, I'm on that analytical thing.
Yeah.
I want to know, what's your job, mister? You ever been married before? Are you still a virgin? Do you have any STDs? I'm going to ask those questions as her dad.
Because the younger people won't be thinking about that.
They won't even think about that. They won't even think about that. That guy is walking around with HIV. He's walking around with a disease that you can't get rid of, like herpes or something like that. They don't even think about that. Why? Because if you was a bogey and she said, oh, he loves me, she'll even sit there walking through the park, coming home from school, get a flower and say, he loves me now. He loves me now. And then it ends on, he loves me. Based on a flower?
Love is, blind, isn't it?
It's blind. Yeah. And it's not fickle like that. So my advice is, do it the religious way. And the religious way doesn't mean you're in a straitjacket. It doesn't mean that. It means that given your situation, it may be that you're not close to your father. You're not close to your mother. It's awkward. You can't talk to them. Okay. Then find someone like that. Your auntie, your mother's brother, your mother's father's sister. Find someone. Find a cousin. But make them a part of the situation and just do it the right way. That's all. And what's the right way? Prophet Muhammad never told us A, B, C, D. Not like that. Not like that. Not at all. Just recently, a young girl, she accepted Islam since I've been here. She accepted Islam since I've been here. White girl. White sister accepted Islam. Young. She came here the other day with an Asian boy. They came together. And they want to do the right thing. They want to get married. Just looking at them and talking to them, I could tell they're nice kids. So before we even start talking, I want to learn, how deep is this relationship? What you guys been doing? So when I ask, brother, did you ever touch this girl just like that? If he moves a certain way, I'm watching his body language. I'm seeing the strength of his character. You ask him that question, hey, you ever touch this girl? He says, excuse me, I'll be right back. Can I go to the toilet? I'll be right back. And he leaves and don't come back. I said, you don't want to marry somebody like that. He doesn't have a backbone. Or he'll say, no, wallahi, a'udhu billah. All right? And then we start talking more. But I didn't even get into, am I going to marry them, not going to marry them? I want to know, where are they in their situation? So that's the right way of doing things in that context. And the right way of doing things in another context may be just go through the steps of the culture, because you're all at both the boy and the girl, they're so cultural that you have to go through the culture, because if you don't go through the steps of the culture, it's going to create problems. And that's the maruna, the flexibility of Islam. Mm-hmm. Islam is a religion that says from the best qualities to have is to be flexible. The Prophet said, he said, pray standing up. And if you can't pray standing up, pray sitting down. And if you can't pray sitting down, pray lying down. Flexibility. Mm-hmm. Don't be one of those guys who, he said, the mu'min is like the date palm tree. The date palm tree, when the wind blows, it gives. It goes back and forth. But it doesn't break. Mm. His iman goes up, his iman goes down. Has good days, bad days. And also it means, he's like the date palm tree, he can maneuver, man. He's not so flexible like this parent who says, no way. No way. No, man. The believer is like a date palm tree. Lighten up, man. This is your daughter. Perhaps this guy who's coming right now and knocking at the door, he's the ticket and the key to her Jannah. That's how you have to think about it. Mm-hmm. And how you're going to find that out is by tasting the coffee. That's cold. That's cold. But I can't look at that and come into the room and say, that's cold. That's sweet. What are you talking about?
I understand, yeah. See where you're going with that.
I would suggest, Akhi, that we prolong this and maybe have another talk, because we are kind of like all over the place. I mean, I feel like that.
I agree.
I feel like that. Maybe people who are listening don't feel we're all over the place and they're getting an understanding. But what I don't want to happen is a short amount of time a person is jolted with, don't marry that boy. And they just look at it as, oh, he's not against me. No. But give people an appreciation of why these rules and regulations are in the religion. I'm not against you. The proof of that is I'm telling you what I'm telling you because we don't want you to do the wrong thing. You ever been shot?
Shot?
Yeah, with a gun. You ever shoot yourself in the foot?
No. Well,
meaning you did something that you came to regret, probably, a decision. Yeah, man, don't shoot yourself in the foot. Like figuratively. And you can shoot yourself in the foot. Just look around. Allah told us in many ayahs of the Quran, فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَتْ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Travel through the earth and look at what was the end result of those who rejected and disbelieved. Look at what happened to Fir'aun. And look at what over here. Allah destroyed these people. Travel through the earth. We create your nation and tribes so you can get to know each other. You meet people. You get your horizons broaden. Mm-hmm. So we're saying there are people who have traveled through the earth and they have experience. And from them, your mother and your father. Your dad has experience. Yeah. Or he should have, like your dad. Yeah. They have experience. So,
excuse me.
Stick with what's right.
Yeah.
And what's right is not A, B, C, D. It's just sometimes having common sense. And that's why it's important for us to know the basics of the religion. And from the basis of a religion is the main goal and objective should not be my desire.
Yeah.
It should be, I want to get to Jannah. I want to get to paradise. And Prophet Muhammad said paradise is surrounded by things that are makari, things people don't like. You want to get to Jannah? It's surrounded by things you don't like. Making wudu when it's cold, getting up early for Fajr. Those are things people don't like. Fasting in the month of Ramadan, wearing hijab in the summertime, and other than that, being patient with your mother and father when they get on your last nerve. Jannah is surrounded like that. He said the hellfire is surrounded by shahwat, by desires. The hellfire is surrounded by desires. So make the goal and the objective. Allah created me to worship him. And this marriage is worship. Mm-hmm. He said, anyone who got married, he completed half of his deen. So let him fear Allah on the other half. Because now you're a full person. You marry, Allah created everything in pairs. So you're married now. That shows marriage is half of your deen. It's religious. I want to get to Jannah. And in the process of getting to Jannah, I have to navigate with my mother and my father. I have to navigate with all this fitting and drum. It can't be my heart, how I feel. I love is love. Especially this Bollywood stuff.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
OMG.
Everything is dramatized now, isn't it?
Dramatized.
Entertainment industry.
You know, a lot of them women and men, if you were to take them off of that set and wash that makeup off, and you'll say, man, you ugly. You're an ugly person inside and outside. You're fake. And then there's that girl over there. She's just a regular girl. Nice girl. And you find beauty in her spirit and her heart. She's intelligent. You be like, I mean, you can smell the aroma of love. But we want to pattern the stuff after what's fake.
It's difficult more nowadays. Everything is glamorized, especially with the amount of media everybody consumes, entertainment and stuff. So it's a lot more difficult.
Music.
Yeah.
There's a guy in America. His name is Luther Vandross.
Okay,
Luther Vandross.
I've heard of him, yeah.
You want me to sing? He used to sing. Can I sing? You give me that permission?
Yeah, sure.
Man, I ain't singing it. But if I were to hear a song of his from when I was 17, 18, I would become nostalgic and I would get those feelings of, I would get that. Because that's what that music does. That stuff is they're from the weapons of Shaitan. It's not real. That feeling that you get. You know that song 50 Cent made in the club? That song probably is gonna always be a classic. That Dr. Dre, Still Dre. I mean, you could be riding down the street, you hear that song, and you start it's just natural.
Yeah.
That's the power of emotions and music and all of this fake stuff. And that's why the Muslim has to do those things in religion to save himself or herself, like praying 5 times a day. So if he's praying 5 times a day, so many rewards for Fajr. So between each prayer, he makes sins between each prayer. But when he makes the next prayer, it wipes it away. When he makes wudu, his sins fall off with the water. When he fasts the month of Ramadan, he gets strong. His connection with Allah. He goes to Hajj, and he's there, all those people going around the Kaaba. This is the Deen. But when we get away from that, and we be like, man, I'm going to do this in my own style, in my own way, you got a problem.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult. Sheikh, just to add on what you said earlier about, we're not encompassing everything to do with this topic right now, but every situation is subjective. So like you said, they should go to their elders. They should go to somebody trusted within their community, somebody at the masjid maybe, and get advice. Each situation is subjective, and we're not covering all things right now, are we, Sheikh? Don't want people to make some decisions just based on this. But yeah, thank you very much, Sheikh. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you, man. You know that. You're my man.
Thank you,
your friend.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.